So listen, here's the deal. This is what we should do. You should get off the train with me here in Vienna and come check out the town.
What?
Come on, it'll be fun. Come on.
What would we do?
I don't know. All I know is I have to catch an Austrian Airlines flight tomorrow morning at 9:30, and I don't really have enough money for a hotel, so I was just gonna walk around, and it'd be a lot more fun if you came with me. What this really could be is a gigantic favor to both you and your future husband to find out that you're not missing out on anything. I'm just as big as loser as he is, totally unmotivated, totally boring, and you made the right choice, and you're really happy.
Let me get my bag.
The idea of falling in love with somebody, romanticizing the attempts to truly understand someone, and imagining the possibilities of what a future with them might hold. If any series of movies truly captures the feelings and emotions involved with being truly captivated and head over heels for another person, my vote would undoubtedly go to the Before Trilogy. 3 films encompassing 18 years of the lives of 2 strangers who met on a train and fell for one another, capturing 3 eras of their relationship and also 3 eras of life. The first film, Before Sunrise, releasing in 1995 and containing the night that Jesse and Celine met one another when they were both in their 20s. The second film, Before Sunset, releasing in 2004, is about them meeting again now in their 30s and how their lives have drastically changed. And finally, Before Midnight from 2013, showing the reality of this decade-long relationship now with them in their 40s and having children. Director Richard Linklater crafted, to me, one of the most authentic and honest depictions of what it's like to not just fall in love with someone, but what we emphasize is important and what we idealize within each other within each era of our lives. From the carefree, hopeful optimism of your 20s, to life solidifying more in your 30s and the frantic feeling on if you've been making the right choices, to being in your 40s now and having to accept the life that you've created. And each film is so specifically well done within its themes, and as I grow older, currently now in my mid-30s, these movies get more and more impressive to me each time that I watch them. However, explaining to somebody why they should watch them can be difficult because when asked the question, what are these movies about? What is the plot? Well, these movies are not about plot. They're about character. You could say that nothing happens in them, and yet so much is happening. What I mean is that these movies all take place in real time with the main characters just talking, having conversations, walking around cities, bars, cemeteries, open landscapes, or wherever they happen to be at the time, but it's all dialogue, and it's all happening at once. It's as if you just placed a camera on 2 people having a date and watched them for 90 minutes. And yet, it's so incredibly captivating. It shows that not every movie needs to have all these twists and turns or a bunch of action. If the characters are well written, then you can watch them do anything, even just talk. I suppose there's also the big aspect of romanticism I feel when I watch them. Not from the movie itself, but from the idea of forming a connection with someone as depicted specifically in the first film, Before Sunrise. Jesse is on a train in Europe going to Vienna to catch a flight back to his home in America, where he strikes up a conversation with a fellow passenger, a French girl named Celine. There's instant chemistry between the 2 of them, and when his stop comes up, he proposes the idea that she gets off the train with him and hangs out with him in the city until it's his time to leave. Through their night together, they pass through several really beautiful areas, but the entire focus is on their conversations. There's a feeling the movie gives me that's kind of hard to explain, and one I vaguely remember experiencing myself, but it's when both you and her know that you like each other, but you're still kind of playing coy or acting like you don't know the other person knows, but deeply you both know the truth, if that makes any sense at all. The movie is filled with memorable quotes and scenes, and with their constricted time limit, all of the moments they have together feel that much more important. Not knowing what's going to happen, knowing the impractical idea of falling for each other despite their soon-to-be long distance, all of it evaporates, and it's almost like this one night is a time capsule separated from the rest of the world that neither of them will ever forget. Some people may say the ending is contrived since they don't exchange any contact information and instead just say they will meet here again in 6 months. But also, the movie came out in 1995, so it's not like there was social media or smartphones or anything like that. None of that existed, so I think it works for the film, and I think it works best for the second movie as well. Because Before Sunset takes place in real time 9 years after the first movie, Jesse apparently did show up 6 months later, but Celine did not because of complications happening in her life. So they had no way to communicate this with each other, leaving them to go on separate paths. Jesse wrote a book that was extremely similar to their encounter, and on a book tour, he meets Celine in Paris. Now in their 30s, they begin to talk and reconnect, and being around the same age as them now in this movie, more and more this one rises to be my favorite of the three. They both at first try to put on a front that they're doing well in life, but they both had very troubling relationships ever since. Celine's never working out, and Jesse is married with a kid, but there's no passion in his relationship and he feels trapped. And every day since their encounter, they have thought about one another. And I think about these moments I've had with people in my life, memories I've made, connections, sexual experiences, whatever they are. And as Celine says, you can never replace anybody because everyone is made of such specific details. Imagine finding that person that lights up your whole world, changes the course of your life, and who is constantly on your mind, but then they're just gone. Years and years go by, and we may find other people, we may not, but those specific connections are still so impactful. So imagine, in this scenario of the movie, if you had another chance. Before Sunset also happens to have my favorite quote from perhaps any movie ever, where Celine says, "I guess when you're younger, you just believe there'll be many people that you'll connect with, but later in life, you realize it only happens a few times." That quote has sat heavy with me ever since I first saw this movie, and it may be the truest statement about relationships ever in film. As life continues, people get older, obligations increase, the odds of you connecting with someone like you did when you're young becomes farther and farther out of sight. To meet someone who really gets you and truly gives a shit about you, it doesn't happen very often. Most relationships in life are casual. Yeah, people like you, but everyone has their own thing going on. A lot of people only like you for what you can do for them. Some people only tolerate you. Some people you're only friends with because you work together, or because you're neighbors, or you're friends, but you only see each other once a year. To really fall in love, to really care about someone and have them really care about you back is rare. And the freedom of being able to meet someone in your 20s and just randomly spend all day with them without having to make any adjustments to your schedule or obligations, that starts to go away as you get older too. To be able to feel actual passion for someone without being so jaded from horrible experiences. How often is true connection really going to happen? Too many people throw away early relationships for this unseen potential of what could happen instead of focusing on what is happening. And the older you get, the harder it becomes to meet and connect with somebody. By the end of Before Sunset, Jesse misses his flight home and decides to stay with Celine, and for 9 years, you would be left to wonder if it truly worked out this time. Before Midnight, released in 2013, picks up with the characters in their 40s, still together, and they have twins. But Jesse still has his son that lives in America, which complicates matters when it comes to him wanting to move closer to him. Similarly to the others, this movie is also mostly in real time with nothing but conversations between the two of them, although this one does involve a few more characters in the first half. But this movie is also a bit rough to watch, not because of poor quality, but to watch the realism set in. You can tell that Jesse and Celine still love one another. They're still playful, they still flirt, they still have fun, but there's also confliction within the relationship. And for the first time in any of these films, we see them have a fight, and it is not pretty. It takes that idealization of them that we have in the first movie and throws it into reality. It gets dark. Both end up hurting one another, and from watching the first film to seeing the blowout scene that happens in the hotel room here, it puts into perspective that nothing in life, not even love, is gonna be perfect. Everyone has their own ideas and desires, and sometimes those hopes and dreams cannot coexist with another person's hopes and dreams. So, one must compromise to the other, and when neither wants to, we are left with the question, is love on its own enough to keep two people together? I don't think the movie outright answers this question, but it does end on a notion of hope that if this journey together, these experiences made, and if it truly does mean something, then can it ultimately be resolved? But it leaves the audience to kind of make up our own minds on the answer to that. These movies are a treat that give me so much to think about every time that I watch them. They hold a special place in my heart, and maybe they just remind me of better times or a time for potential, or just make me think about time as a concept. Jumping film to film, 9 years at a time, and then reflecting on my own life, it really makes me recognize how fast everything goes and how different everything can be decade to decade, even though day to day you don't feel any different. Things change very fast. People will come and go. You never know what's going to happen. All the more reason to value and appreciate the good moments while they are happening. To hold on to those moments where you feel like all of time is stopping just for you. To keep it close. Because you might think that you'll have plenty more of those moments. But as you get older, you realize it only happens a few times.